Now, Louis, are you talking about time when someone inquires on my website, calls our brand, or when a proposal goes out?
So this statement, time kills deals, refers to every stage of the sales process. Now, let me break it down. We're going to go to the top of the funnel, awareness stage. So, and I also want to differentiate the difference between an actual lead with intent versus somebody has downloaded some form of gated content, right? Like a webinar, a white paper, right? Because to some extent, that's not necessarily a lead. They could be, but they're asking for some info that you have. They're not potentially asking for a call. I'm talking about those who have inquired to say whether it's a paid ad, there's a form, it says, call me, talk to me about X. Like, let's make it explicit. Data shows us that those type of leads, call me to talk about X, need to be responded to ASAP. In some cases, within 20 minutes. And this is interesting, right? Because we're working with a business. They spend about $250,000 a month on ads. And they've got per month, and they've got really incredible data that shows that if they don't convert them within the first 72 hours, and they're getting a lot of leads, by the way, right? Propensity to convert just completely falls off a cliff. Yeah. So they have a really tight cadence. Literally, they're double calling on day one. So if they call them in the morning, they don't answer, they'll send an email, they'll send an SMS, and they'll call back in the afternoon. So they're doing a double call because they've seen the conversion happens in the first 3 days. After that, they go into a longer sales cycle and conversion just drops off because the product they're selling, it's about $700 for that product, and they need to get the conversion quick because people are searching a certain keyword on Google. They're coming up, they're in the high intent. They're at that action stage of purchasing, yeah? So time to respond is critical. B2B, a little bit different, right? Potentially they've inquired. Now, this is the key though. Getting back to them quickly is critical. We saw this with our great friends at Grant Thornton. The minute they made a shift to the way they managed inbound for people that had high intent, their conversion went, through the roof. They were actually the first ones to respond to a particular lead in front of their competitors, had the call, understood the motivation, qualified them, got a call with a partner, giddy up. They've actually got incredible data to show how it's impacted in a positive way conversion cycle, right? So that's an example of why if you've got an inbound lead, if you're spending money to get the lead, have a proper cadence to follow them up quickly, get your system to notify you and have somebody in the team to be able to follow them up immediately. So that's for top of funnel. Now let's talk about middle to bottom of the funnel. The statement still applies. Why? Because every interaction you have with your prospect, with your buying committee, there needs to be another action booked in. If we know that we're dealing with an organization and the organization has 4 or 5 key people in the buying committee, then you need to explain to your champion and you need to work and coach your champion on what the next action should be and how other people like them behave in other organizations that you work with and what they should be doing next, yeah? Because you want to make sure there's a next step and the next step's clearly defined so that time just doesn't lapse. You don't want, gray area. You don't want no next step because that's when the time will start to kill that deal.
Now, is it a case of if you follow up too quickly, that could harm the deal?
Yeah, we have seen, and it's interesting because there was a report done, from VanillaSoft, Daryl Prale, a great friend who, where have you been, Daryl?
I don't know how many times we've messaged you. He still hasn't responded, Daryl. SOS, please.
Mate, Daryl, we need to follow you up. Time's killing the deal. Anyway, when we go back to that report that VanillaSoft did, about 136 million leads. They did it with the Telfar School of Management. It's a couple of years back, but the lead sample was massive. And it actually showed that the best time to respond was about that 20-minute mark. They said 5 minutes, fast, too fast. The buyer's like, you know what?
So you can be too fast.
You can be too fast. Like if somebody's literally there, they've just put their details, bang, your phone rings. You're kind of feeling like, think about it. How would you feel?
Yeah, you probably think about like just twiddling their thumbs, waiting for the next lead to come through. Not busy, are you?
Yeah, it's pretty quick, right? So that the optimal time the report said was about 20 minutes.